Practicing filming in the dark. Hello there, I am Flynn, also known as Fuzzy Warrior, and welcome to the behind the scenes of Archosaura Season 3. Archosaura is a story I've had in the works for 7 years. Even though it's fictional, I wanted to create a realistic, dynamic environment that the viewer could become immersed in. This is a run-through and somewhat of a guide to making that type of video. Before I start scripting any of my videos, it starts with the planning stage. This is generally just a basic idea of what I'm going to do in the season and who's going to be in it. So I start with looking at the previous season, thinking about which characters I want to bring back and who needs to do what, and then I create the cast. For Season 3 that involves a whole bunch of new characters, but there are a few old characters in there. Then I have to come up with a basic plan of what the episode is going to be for the whole season. But I don't go too much into detail because then I come up with a whole load of ideas. For this season, some of those have come from Scaly Studios, but most of them are mine, which involves things like Margaret's death, or the confrontation in the Triceratops herd with Ares, a whole load of different things. And even in that stage, the idea of the story can change. Like, there was originally going to be a whole different version of Season 3, because I was writing it for the original version of the series, which I threw out quite some time ago. So in that original version, Jack had died in Season 2, so he wasn't going to be in it, but he is now. The thing I'll generally start out with is writing down the cast. So most of these characters are from the previous seasons, and then I have a list of all of the species that don't have names but are going to be included. A lot of these are new because we're going to see a lot more of the other side of the island for this season. So I've got some new animals. Then for this season I had to think about things like species that don't make it in the volcanic eruption, and species that stay at the river in the bush when they get to it in, I think it's episode 4. Yeah. And then I have lists of little things that I've thought of, or other people have thought of, that I'm going to include that I haven't initially included in the breakdown of each episode. Now, of course, some of these can be incredibly brief, like those 2 lines right there. That is all I wrote down initially for the first episode. And now I've got a whole lot more. This is the stage of scripting. In this pile of paper, I have notes on certain parts of the episodes that I want to include, and an outline of each of the episodes. Ever since the end of Season 1, I've been starting to do highlighting on different parts of the script. For this one, I've got blue for night filming. This is mainly because it has to be done separately. And the pink is for the areas of the script that I haven't put any narration in. When it comes to the layout of an episode, selecting which parts I need to plan the narration for is really important. For the second episode, this is all about the eruption and what happens to the baryonyx. For all the episodes, I have to script the intro and occasionally the outro.
I shoot all my videos using a Canon XS185. It's not 100% perfect, but it's what I've been using for years, so I'm kind of used to it.
And here we are in the location I use for the Western Forest. This was used in every single episode of Season 2 and 3 episodes in Season 1. It's a really beautiful location because unlike most of the other forests around here where I live, it's not a monoculture. Like all those other forests are wilding pines because it's a forestry area. Now, this might seem like a 100% perfectly adequate filming location, but it's not quite. Like, even with this forest, there's 2 buildings right there on the what I call the plains. It's a public park, there's lots of people and dogs, and it's right next to a road. So, you have to work with what you've got in this sort of thing. If you're gonna make a volcano erupt in your backyard, you gotta think outside the box. This is the mat from our old trampoline. It is 10 to 7 and I have just finished the first part of the filming for the volcano scene in episode 2. The rest of it is going to be done down at the usual location tomorrow night. For the lighting of these night scenes, I have been using my head torch for the main light, and to do the red light I have been using the rear light from my bicycle. One of the things I have started doing since Season 2 is properly focusing the camera before shooting.
I do this by pressing the photo button down about halfway until it beeps.
For those of you who are coming into the business of making dinosaur videos, especially outside, don't ever leave a site without making sure you've got everything. I have come across this problem 1 or 2 times and almost lost several dinosaurs, so you have to be very careful. Especially if they're brown and small. One other thing that I do after I've finished filming to make sure that I've got everything is, in this case, lay everything out on a picnic table. Obviously not every location is going to have a picnic table, but just make sure you've got everything before you leave a spot, especially if you spent half an hour to an hour getting to it. The 4th episode is the culminating moment for the Triceratops arc. This little stream is surrounded by some pretty squelchy ground, which I'm using as a way to force the characters to move on, and also get rid of Ares. And new location for the first time this season. This ditch is the valley between the mountains from Season 2. I'm here doing the last lot of filming for episode 4, and I'm also going to use it pretty much right up until the end of episode 7. So most of the second half of the season. Right, so we've just finished doing all the last bit of filming for episode 8. Doing this with help of Scaly Studios. He's behind the camera. There we go. This stream is also the place where during the filming of Season 1 episode 9, while making Tempest walk out of the stream, Scaly Studios lost one of his sandals.
In the mud, it was terrible. Bad idea.
Yeah, we did find somebody else's shoe while looking for it, but it took a shovel to get it out.
We had to go back and get a shovel. Bad idea.
I am one of those people who does everything at the location. This is filming, sound effects, narration, puppeteering, etc. This inevitably results in background noises I don't want. But I will never cease to be amazed how much ambience covers up background noise. Later in the day, Baryonyx, Sam and Margaret are returning to the place that they have chosen as a sort of hideout. Editing is usually the most tedious part of the process of making an episode. Sometimes. It's usually the shortest. Like, it'll take me 2 hours to film an episode, but only about 1 to edit it. I use a PC program called Video Editor to put the videos together. I can thank Scaly Studios for teaching me how to do it in less than a day. Once I've loaded all of the footage on, the runtime of the video will be probably 1 to 3 or sometimes even 5 minutes longer than the final episode. And that's because I have to cut a lot of stuff off. This can be the end of a shot where a noise I didn't want was heard, or I got my finger in the shot, or even if the figure fell over. In the case of some of the episodes, such as the season finales, I had to cut the start off pretty much every shot because I had to split the episode up into chunks which were being filmed out of order.
Right here in this shot for episode 3, you can see that I had my thumb and my index finger in the shot for about the first 2 seconds.
So after about 2 hours-ish of editing, that took a video that was originally about 13 minutes down to 11.5 minutes. And I actually only originally shot about 10 minutes worth of footage, and I've added in a lot more. I do just want to point out, for those of you who may not have picked up on it, that there is a sort of scavenger hunt in Archosaura. For each of the 3 seasons there are 3 references to documentaries throughout the entire season. So I'll put the list in the description of this video, so if you haven't picked up on it, check those and see if you can find them, or if you have picked up on them, well, see if you got them all right. Season 3 episode 8 is not going to be the last Archosaura related project I'm going to be doing on this channel. I am going to be doing one more, which is not going to be a season 4, it's just going to be a single video, but it will follow on from post-disaster. Also, it's not going to be made anytime soon, so don't get your hopes up. So that's it for now for Archosaura. I hope all of you enjoyed watching the videos as much as I enjoyed making them. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.